So here it is, guys, our brand new series, Follow Me. It's taken by our very own senior leader, Mark Pomeroy. Enjoy it.
Well, hey there, Elevate family and friends. Great to have you with us today. Hope you had a terrific Easter. By the way, if you missed our Easter online experience, it's available and highly recommend that. Look, recently I heard about a guy who went hiking with a group of friends in Colorado. And sometime during the evening, he separated from the group, from his friends, and seemingly got lost. He didn't meet the friends back at the rendezvous point that they'd prearranged. And of course, as time went on through the night, his friends got worried and they asked or contacted a search and rescue crew to try and find him. And that search and rescue crew through the night both went looking for him and they were trying to phone him. 9:30 a.m. the following day, the friend just turns up at the rendezvous point and his friends are like, what happened? Did you get lost? And he goes, yeah, really lost. And they're like, didn't you have your phone? And he's like, yeah, I've got my phone. And then they're like, the search and rescue crew were phoning you all through the night. Why didn't you pick up? And he's like, I didn't recognize the number. I thought it was a scam call. Yeah, okay. I gotta admit, typical male behavior. But he was lost. And the reason I share that story is we're launching a brand new series where we're going to be focusing on the times or some of the times where Jesus actually sought out or came across people who were lost. And it was to these people, these lost people, that he extended a very simple two-word invitation. And the invitation was, follow me. And this two-word invitation, look, it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code for life. If you want to navigate life better, follow Jesus. If you want to live with greater purpose, follow Jesus. If you want to expand your capacity, follow Jesus. You don't even need to know where he's leading you. You just need to follow him and trust that he's going to lead you to better and to higher. And that's what this series is all about. Follow me. Now, okay, full disclosure, before we get too deep into this series, I do need to give you two warnings. First of all, when Jesus invites us to follow him, he very much meets us where we're at. Okay? So that's great. It means you don't have to have it all together to be worthy and to qualify as somebody that Jesus would extend the same invitation to. However, that doesn't mean he's going to validate everything currently in your life, because he wants to change some stuff. But the change is always for better and for higher. That's the first warning. The second warning is this: if you decide to respond to Jesus' invitation and say, yes, I will follow you, it doesn't mean that it's all going to be smooth sailing. There'll be challenges, there'll be hard times, it might get harder before it gets easier. However, there's also going to be opportunities that wouldn't exist and wouldn't present themselves without saying yes to the invitation to follow Jesus. Now, it's the week after Easter, and we're very intentionally launching this series the week after Easter. See, Easter very much is about believe me. Jesus inviting us to believe him, believe who he was, who he says he was. He is who he says he is, the Son of God. Believe that he rose from the dead, that he ascended back into heaven. You know, there's a question of belief. And if we say yes to this invitation, it leads us to what we call in church world salvation. This idea that we are then in a right relationship with God. Our sins are forgiven. We get to establish or reestablish a right relationship with God. This is an event. Yes to believe me leads to salvation. That's an event. The invitation to follow me isn't about salvation, it's about transformation. It's not an event, it's a process. And here's what's important to understand. Belief and following are not inherently coupled. You have to decide to do both. And in fact, I know people, and chances are you know people, who believe but aren't following. And the great tragedy is that while they believe, and congratulations, you're going to heaven, see you there, they're missing out on the opportunity to be transformed by Jesus while they're still on this earth. Transformed by Jesus to become more and more like Jesus. So over the next 5 weeks, I'm going to introduce you to 5 people that Jesus extended this invitation to follow him. The first one is a guy named Matthew. Now, Matthew ultimately became one of Jesus' closest hand-picked 12 disciples. He ultimately became one of the 4 biographers of Jesus that wrote a biography that we currently have access to. However, he first enters the pages of history as a Jewish man collecting taxes on behalf of the occupying Roman government. Now, it would be an understatement to say that tax collectors weren't popular at that time. I mean, they're not popular now, but back then they were really not popular. These were Jewish people collecting taxes for the occupying Roman government. They were considered traitors. Not only were they considered traitors, but there was layers of corruption mixed in, where the tax collectors could add their own side tax. They could change the numbers anytime they wanted. Rome didn't care. As long as Rome got their cut, these people could move the goalposts at a whim. There was bribery from wealthy people. If you turn a blind eye to this, we'll look after you over here. To give you an extent of just how disliked these Jewish tax collectors were, they were barred from entering the Jewish synagogue. That's pretty extreme. And they were not permitted to bear witness inside a Jewish legal court because they were considered to have no credibility. And so this was Matthew's occupation when he entered the pages of history. And it might have looked something like this.
We live in the same world, Matthew. Next. Besides, what else are you going to do with a mind like yours?
Matthew. Matthew, son of Alphaeus.
Yes.
Follow me.
Me?
Yes, you.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing?
You want me to join you?
Keep moving, street preacher.
Do you have any idea what this guy's done? Do you even know him?
Yes.
Listen, I said to... What are you doing? Where do you think you're going?
Guys, let me go.
Have you lost your mind? You have money. Quintus protects you. No Jew lives as good as you. You're gonna throw it all away.
Yes.
I don't get it.
You didn't get it when I chose you either.
But this is different. I'm not a tax collector.
Get used to different. I'm glad we passed by your booth today, Matthew.
Yes.
Shall we? We have a celebration to prepare for.
You will regret this, Matthew.
What's the tablet for?
I grabbed it without thinking. You can put it back.
No, keep it. You may yet find use for it.
Where are we going?
A dinner party.
I'm not welcome at dinner parties.
Well, that's not going to be a problem tonight. You're the host.
So if you've got your smartphone camera, how about you scan this flow code? It's actually going to take you to Matthew writing his account of this interaction that he had with Jesus, where Jesus first invited him to follow me. Matthew tells his own version of events, and it was evident that Matthew considered himself to be like the last person that Jesus would invite to follow him. So this is Matthew's account. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew, me, sitting at my tax collector's booth. "Follow me and be my disciple," Jesus said to me. So I got up and followed him. And then later, I invited Jesus and his disciples to my home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. I love Matthew's self-awareness right here. This is Matthew describing himself and his friends. We're just a bunch of tax collectors and sinners. Like, this is my people. I mean, I wonder if some of them may have read Matthew's biography of Jesus later and thought, hey, hang on. Or maybe not. Maybe they were all as self-aware as Matthew was. Have you ever gotten so excited about something that you couldn't wait to share it with your friends? You know, maybe you went to see a great movie, or you just streamed a great movie and you were like, man, you need to watch this. This movie is awesome. You know, maybe you went to a restaurant or you cooked a great meal at home and you're like, you need to try this out for yourself. One of the things I like to do, and some of my friends, we go back and forth with just sharing funny stuff on socials. You know, one of my buddies, he's a gym bro, and so we share gym fails, where there's far too many near-death experiences involving bench pressing, barbells, and anyway. Another one of my friends, we golf together, and so we share golf fail videos. And it was like, as soon as I see one, I'm like, bing! Because here's the reality. We share what we love with people we love. And this was exactly Matthew's first play. The first thing he did after he decided to follow Jesus was to invite his sphere, his friends, his people to meet Jesus for themselves. He couldn't wait. It's the first thing he did. He didn't wait till he'd been baptized, although I'm sure ultimately he got baptized. And I'm not saying baptism is unimportant. It's important. If you haven't taken that step, I encourage you to take that step. But it's not a prerequisite for inviting your friends to meet Jesus. He didn't wait till he'd read the entire Bible. Again, very important, but not a prerequisite. It was just like, Matthew was like, I've met him. He's literally unbelievable. And I care so much about you. I want you to meet him as well. And so this approach of Matthew's really informs our approach as Elevate Church when it comes to encouraging the people in our sphere to consider following Jesus. We simply call it invest and invite. Invest and invite. And look, I lead a church for a living, and I'm going to say to you, you actually have an unfair advantage over me if you don't lead a church for a living. Number one, if you have a job, it's likely you are surrounded by unchurched and de-churched people, all of whom I encourage you to be investing in over time and looking for opportunities to invite. I spend my working hours investing in our team leaders who are already Jesus followers, or at least that's what they tell me. The second advantage you have is, look, when unchurched people and de-churched people find out that I lead a church, I wish it would light a fuse. Well, let's talk about that. That sounds amazing. And sadly, that is not my experience. In fact, it's the opposite. That comes up in conversation. It is a conversation stopper. Not for me, though I don't kind of, try to be that guy, but people are like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then they'll change the subject or they'll run away. And you won't have that. It's like they think I'm on some sort of pyramid scheme commission thing that if I kind of get them in, there's some benefit to me. It's not that way at all. But now I've got a sphere of unchurched people and de-churched people, and I continue to model integrity for them. I continue to serve them. I continue to invest in them. I'm just saying that unchurched people and de-churched people are everywhere. And you are likely already positioned where they're within arm's reach. So start thinking about that. Start praying about that. Start being intentional about that. Investing and inviting. And we have strategically and very intentionally created a number of invite-friendly environments as Elevate Church. Now, for those people living in the Perth area, every Sunday we gather together for what we call our live experience, and it's designed to be very invite-friendly. I mean, it's a church, but we do it in a way that unchurched people and de-churched people can at least hopefully find the experience more accessible. So when you invite one of your unchurched or de-churched people, hopefully the barriers will come down a little bit during that experience. Now, that's what we probably would call a front door opportunity, which literally requires them to walk in the front doors of our church facilities. The good news is these days that there's also some side door opportunities. Because not everybody that you invite, not everybody that you've been investing in is going to be ready, is going to feel comfortable, is going to want to walk through the front doors of a church building. So there's side doors. There's side doors that are less threatening. There's side doors where they can stay, sort of off the public radar while they're dipping their toes in the water of this Jesus guy. One of them is this. Right here, right now, our online experience. If you're watching this and joining in by yourself, you've got an opportunity to fill your couch, to fill your lounge room, to fill the space that you're currently in with people that you've been investing in. And yeah, you can bribe them with snacks, bribe them with a meal afterwards. You know, one of our team recently, well, it was Christmas actually, gathered their whole entire family. First of all, 5 p.m. Sunday, gathered them together, had a watch party of our online experience, and then they piggybacked dinner together, and they intentionally talked about, as a family, the things that we covered off in our online experience. And most of her family are unchurched and de-churched, and she said that the whole thing was brilliant and kind of easy to organize. And so, look, yeah, there's that. There's also just the idea of hosting social events where you mix in some of your Jesus follower friends and family with your not Jesus follower friends and family. And this is exactly what Matthew did. Matthew got his mob together, the mob, and then invited Jesus and his mob, his disciples, to come together. And there was this potent mashup. In fact, in some streams of church circles, they actually teach this and encourage this specifically, and they call them Matthew parties. Like, host a Matthew party. Think about it. Now, as we land this message, as we start this new series today, it might seem a little, like at face value, it might seem a little back to front to start a series about following Jesus with the emphasis of not on us following him, but on us being used by Jesus to lead other people to follow him. Might seem a little bit back to front, like, oh, shouldn't I be focusing on myself first and being more effective in my following? It's both and, okay? It's both and. Both become more effective at following Jesus, and we're going to be teaching about that over the next 4 weeks, so stick around, and be more effective about investing and inviting. See, a couple of things that I have observed and continue to observe about people who intentionally and consistently invest and invite. Two things. Number one, it shows me they're already growing. That their faith is so alive that they can't wait to share it. Because remember, as I said, we share what we love with the people that we love. Stuck people don't invest and invite. That's a reality. It's a sad reality, but it's a reality. So if you're investing and inviting, it's evidence that you're already growing. The second thing that I've observed is if you're investing and inviting, it actually gives you an added catalyst to continue to grow, because your friends are going to ask you questions, some of which you don't know the answer to. And you can say to them, I don't know. Let's explore that together, shall we? And see if we can find an answer. So it's a both and. It's a follow Jesus and invest and invite into the people in your sphere who aren't yet following Jesus. One of the best ways I've ever read this described is in a poem or a writing by a guy named Samuel Shoemaker. Now, Samuel Shoemaker ultimately was one of the people whose approach informed what became the approach, the 12-step approach taken by Alcoholics Anonymous. Super important guy in history. And he wrote this piece called I Stand at the Door. Now, if you've got a second device now and you're kind of distracted, can I encourage you just put that down and really focus. I'm only going to read an excerpt of his piece because it's actually very long. The excerpt I'm going to read is a little bit long. That's why I want you to really focus. You can look it up for yourself later on. Samuel Shoemaker, I Stand at the Door. Encourage you to do that. Let me just read an excerpt from that now. And really, as I said, this is a depiction of what it means to both follow Jesus for yourself and intentionally invest and invite those in your sphere who aren't yet following Jesus. Both and. This is an excerpt of Samuel Shoemaker's I Stand at the Door. I stand at the door. I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It's the door through which men walk when they find God. There's no use my going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside and they, as much as I, crave to know where the door is. Men die outside the door, as starving beggars die on cold nights in cruel cities in the dead of winter. Die for want of what's within their grasp. They live on the other side of it, live there because they've not found it. Nothing else matters compared to helping them find it and open it and walk in and find Him. So I stand by the door. I admire the people who go way in, but I wish they would not forget how it was before they got in. Then they'd be able to help the people who have not yet even found the door, or the people who want to run away again from God. You can go in too deeply and stay in too long and forget the people outside the door. As for me, I shall take my old, accustomed place, near enough to God to hear Him and know He's there, but not so far from men as not to hear them and remember they are there too. Where? Outside the door. Thousands of them, millions of them, but more important for me, one of them, two of them, 10 of them, whose hands I am intended to put on the latch. So I shall stand by the door and wait for those who seek it. I encourage you to be back with us next week. I encourage you to be back with us next week with somebody, with somebodies. And also over these next 5 weeks, how about you scan this QR code? It's going to take you to the Bible app. It's going to allow you to set Elevate Church as what they call My Church. And each week over these 5 weeks, we'll be loading a featured Bible plan into our My Church page on the Bible app around this idea of following Jesus. So again, remember, it's both and. I stand at the door, near enough to God to hear Him and know He's there, and near enough to people to be able to lead them to the door, to Jesus, who's going to invite them with the same invitation He gave you, the same one He gave me, the same one He continues to give us. Follow me.